Jayarada Madhava Kunjabihari Jayarada Madhava Kunjabihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Vrajajanarandana Yasodhanandana Vrajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jayarada Madhava Kunjabihari Jayarada Madhava Kunjabihari Vijana Vallabha Girivardhari Vijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Vrajajanarandana Yasodhanandana Vrajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Girivaradhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Girivaradhari, Jasudanandana, Braja Janaranjana, Jasudanandana, Braja Naranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. Good morning, Prabhu's devotees. Hare Krishna. We're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam. Today the verse is verse number 17 of the 4th canto, chapter 31. To thank, second. I want to thank Sriman Taraka Prabhu for stepping in to the bat yesterday when the speaker didn't show up and delivering us from evil and darkness. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva naruttamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat nasta prayesavadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamash loke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. So let's get into the text, shall we? Yatanavasiya bhratama prakasha bhavanti bhupana bhavanti anukramat evam pari brahmani shaktayastu amu rajastama sattvam iti pravaha. The synonyms: yata, as; navasi, in the sky; abhra, cloud; tama, darkness; prakasha, and illumination; bhavanti, exist; bhupa, O kings; nabhavanti, do not appear; anukramat, consecutively; evam, thus; pare, supreme; brahmani, in the absolute; shaktaya, energies; two, then; amu, those; raja, passion; tama, darkness; sattvam, goodness; iti, thus; pravaha, emanation. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. My dear kings, this is again the Prachetas being addressed. Sometimes in the sky there are clouds, sometimes there is darkness, and sometimes there is illumination. The appearance of all these takes place consecutively. Similarly, in the Supreme Absolute, the modes of passion, darkness, and goodness appear as consecutive energies. Sometimes they appear and sometimes they disappear. Purport: darkness, illumination, and clouds sometimes appear and sometimes disappear. But even when they have disappeared, the potency is still there, always existing. In the sky, sometimes we see clouds, sometimes rainfall, and sometimes snow. Sometimes we see night, sometimes day, sometimes illumination, and sometimes darkness. All these exist due to the sun, but the sun is unaffected by all these changes. Similarly, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original cause of a total cosmic manifestation, he is unaffected by the material existence. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:4. Bhumi napo analo vayu kammano buddhireva cha ahankara itiyam me pina prakritir astada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. Although the material or physical elements are the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are separate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore not affected by material conditions. The Vedanta Sutra confirms Jamadhyasya yataha. The creation, maintenance, and dissolution of this cosmic manifestation are due to the existence of the Supreme Lord. Nonetheless, the Lord is unaffected by all these changes in the material elements. This is indicated by the word pravaha, emanation. The sun always shines brilliantly and is not affected by clouds or darkness. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always present in his spiritual energy and is not affected by the material emanations. Brahma Samhita 5.1 confirms Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadira Dir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. Although he is the supreme cause, the cause of all causes, he is still Parama, transcendental, and his form is Satchit Ananda, eternal spiritual bliss. Krishna is the shelter of everything, And this is the verdict of all scripture. Krishna is a remote cause, the material nature, and material nature is the immediate cause of this cosmic manifestation. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that understanding Prakriti or nature to be the cause of everything is like understanding the nipples on the neck of a goat to be the cause of milk. Material nature is the immediate cause of the cosmic manifestation, but the original cause is Narayana, Krishna. Sometimes people think that the cause of an earthen pot is the earth. We see on a potter's wheel a sufficient amount of earth to produce many pots. And although an intelligent man will say that the earth on the wheel is the cause of a pot, those who are actually advanced will find that the original cause is the potter who supplies the earth and moves the wheel. Material nature may be a helping factor in the creation of this cosmic manifestation, but it is not the ultimate cause. In Bhagavad Gita 9:10, the Lord therefore says, Ayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharat charam. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and producing all moving and unmoving beings. The Supreme Lord casts his glance over material energy, and his glance agitates the three modes of nature. Creation then takes place. The conclusion is that nature is not the cause of the material manifestation. The Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The verse again. My dear kings, sometimes in the sky there are clouds, sometimes there is darkness, and sometimes there is illumination. The appearance of all these take place consecutively. Similarly, in the Supreme Absolute, the modes of passion, darkness, and goodness appear as consecutive energies. Sometimes they appear, and sometimes they disappear. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Nandayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurundina Taranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Vanchakalpataruyascha Kripasindhuvya Vacha Patitanam Pavanavyu Vaishnavavyu Namo Namaha. Here, Narada Muni, who is not just a troublemaker, agitating people, and if he does so, is for the cause of liberation from a material world. There are many traps in the material world. There is the main trap is the misidentification with nature. That this is okay. I was actually at Trader Joe's yesterday or the day before, and I was looking at the little plants, and I asked an employee, because the signs were equivocal. I asked an employee, which one is this tree that is in the sign? I don't see it right above it. And she said, that's a very good question. I say, thank you. I have other good questions too, if you like to hear. She said, like what? And I said, so what's the purpose of life? Oh, she said, that's even a better question. I said, do you know? She said, well, I have an idea. I said, well, I do know it, if you want to hear it. She said, yeah, absolutely. So I said, we are actually not these bodies. We are spirit souls. And God, the one with a big G, is made of spiritual energy, and we are part and parcels of him. And our purpose is to recover our memory and our love for him. So that's the purpose of life. She said, wow, that was succinct. I said, yeah, it's pretty easy. It's hard to realize, and it's hard to practice, but it's worth the effort. So she thanked me, and we still didn't figure out which plant was the one I was looking for, but that was not important at that point. So Narada Muni shows up, and he can show up anywhere, and he chooses particular instances and circumstances where those who are favorable uh, uh, happen to be bewildered at the time. Because let's be honest, the Prachetas were very austere, very pious, very powerful, and they were practicing austerities, but just to have a successful marriage, which is, it's nice, but it's not the goal of life. I'm not decrying the institution of marriage, particularly today, which is my 25th wedding anniversary. So that wouldn't be a very good gift to decry my own marriage. I'm happily married, but it's not the goal. People say, well, the goal of life is my family. So this is what people worship, their family, as if blood will determine virtue. No, I'm sure Ted Bundy had very nice relatives, but they got Ted Bundy, same blood, but it went wrong. And Jack the Ripper, I'm sure his family loved him dearly. So family is not the ultimate goal. And this is what Narada is trying to convey to the Prachetas, that this is nice that you guys practice all these types of austerities and penances, and even choose a natural medium where to practice, because they practice in the water. I'm not sure exactly why they were in the water, I guess, so you don't get disturbed. Like nowadays, it's really hard to find a solitary place, because there's going to be people, even if it is at top of a mountain, there will be skiers and climbers and people trying to get their adrenaline rush by throwing themselves with parachutes or flying suits off the top of a mountain. So it's over for the yogis, and maybe the Himalayas had still some available spots for those who want to practice austerities. One such individual, he born in Nicaragua. He was in the Olympic swimming team. This was in the 70s, mid 70s. He actually was disgusted with life in general, even though he was quite successful. He was an Olympian and very nice guy, very virtuous. He decided to go on top of the Andes somewhere in Ecuador and practice austerities. Just he found out that life in the city didn't suit him, and mundane interactions were harmful to his practice. He tried to understand the purpose of life. So he climbed up several thousand feet and lived in a improvised, I don't know if it was a cave or he made a little refuge for himself. And this trekker in Miami, an American, was going through the airport to fly to Ecuador to go and hike in the mountains. The Andes are actually very beautiful. So he was approached by a devotee who sold him a book. I think it was a Krishna book, if I'm not mistaken. And he didn't want it. I have experience of distributing books that people don't want it, but somebody else may read it. It's proven that many times the books were meant to reach someone else. So it's all this trying to convince a person to read the book. It's fruitless. Basically, you have to convince a person to take the book, because somebody will pick it up. Somebody will get it. Somebody will read, and somebody will understand and surrender, hopefully. So anyway, he just put this Krishna book in a backpack. It wasn't a hard copy. It was a softbound book. And he ended up in the same mountain that this wannabe yogi from Nicaragua, Olympian, was practicing austerities, just meditating and doing yoga and eating roots and leaves and whatever he could find, water from natural sources up in the mountains. And they met. They found each other and they had a conversation and they became friendly to each other. So when the trekker departed, he wanted to give him something. And guess what? He gave him the Krishna book because he had no interest in it. But he had carried for thousands of miles to this other person who needed that knowledge. So, long story short, this person read the book and came down the mountain like Mohammed with the book and found a temple and then joined Krishna consciousness. Just actually, he ended up in Brazil and he became one of the top book distributors in the world. Just like that. So his name was, he passed away years ago. His name was Kalpataru, the wish-fulfilling tree. Just like Madhavendra Puri was a Kalpataru in his original form of wish-fulfilling tree, expert in all the mellows of devotional service. So Narada Muni here is doing his preaching work, talking to the prachetas, trying to get him off the mountain, off the water, so to say, come to shore and practice pure devotional service. Because there's a difference between devotional service and pure devotional service. When one is advanced, one is actually aware of his own personality and is serving Krishna directly as an associate, as a servant of a servant of a servant of Krishna. There's always guidance. So Narada Muni doesn't go around the spiritual world telling people what to do. Everybody's properly engaged. But in the material world, people have a hard time figuring out what they should be doing. So that's Narada Muni's position, talking to the prachetas and telling them that things like this, like sometimes there's darkness, there's illumination, but all these things, they happen simultaneously, one after another, and you cannot trust, basically, the material world, as the material world is temporary and nothing sticks. And the living entities trying to lord it over and figure out who they are without actually cleansing their hearts, which is an impossible task. It's like having a dirty mirror, and no matter what clothes you're wearing, how many times you change, then this parallels our changing bodies. Okay, but if I am rich, I'm gonna be happy. Or if I am with this person, I'm gonna be happy. Or if I get this, I'm gonna be happy. Or if I learn that, I'm gonna be happy. And if I learn how to play the guitar, I'm gonna be happy. All these things that are just coverings. And this is all the coming and going of the modes of nature that are tossing us and the waves of material nature. So darkness, and a Purple Prabhupada says, illumination and clouds sometimes appear and sometimes disappear. But even when they have disappeared, the potency is still there, always existing. In the sky, sometimes you see clouds, rainfall, snow, night, day, illumination, darkness. The sun is creating all this, but the sun is unaffected by all these changes. Just like if you take a quarter, a coin, for those who still remember currency, and you put it against the sun, you can cover the entire disk. but that doesn't mean the quarter is the size of the sun. The sun is always existing, always illuminating, regardless. So similarly, Prabhupada adds in the purport, although the Supreme Personality of God is the original cause of the total cosmic manifestation, he's unaffected by material existence. So there are some bewildered philosophers like Jaimini Kavi, who created this karma mimamsa philosophy, that thinks that God is bound by his own laws. You see, God is not an earthly being, is not one of us. He may behave sometimes like one of us, but he's never one of us. So he's not affected by his own laws. So Jaimini Kavi propounds that God sets the world in motion, creates certain laws, and therefore he's bound. Like, now you're stuck with it. You cannot break your own laws. No, Krishna is above. Even when Krishna is described, he's always in a different category. This is what we have to understand. And Krishna is not subject to the modes of nature, is not subject to mundane morality. That's some people debate that Krishna should be an example, that God should be above suspicion. It's not nice to run away with other people's wives in the middle of the night. But this is all part of the theatrical performance of Krishna that creates the illusion that everybody's related to someone else and Krishna is taking them away. Everything belongs to Krishna. Everyone is part of Krishna. And this is to enhance the relationship that Krishna does that. And Krishna is such an extraordinary being that even though he is Atmarama, self-satisfied, he delights in having exchanges with living entities who are infinitesimal. That gives him pleasure. And to give pleasure to others gives him more pleasure than getting pleasure himself. This is somewhat inconceivable. Why? Because we have a different mentality, because we are envious. When we see that there's one remaining cinnamon bun on the tray, we just look around and get our elbows ready to fight to the death because we want that cinnamon bun and we don't want anybody to take it. Whereas Krishna wants the best for others. And the best for others is to love Krishna because he knows what's best for us. And he is concerned with the pleasure of his devotees, just like his devotees, his true devotees, cannot think about anything but the pleasure of Krishna, particularly Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani derives enormous pleasure out of the relationship with her girlfriends who are always pushing her to meet with Krishna. And Krishna cannot conceive of life without Srimati Radharani. This is really above our pay grade. But this is how things happen in the spiritual world. They know the source of everything. Prabhupada continue here. I'm going to just skip a little bit. Prabhupada quotes the first verse of the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindam Sarvakarana Karanam. While traveling through South India, Lord Chaitanya in the Adikeshava temple and near Udupi found the 5th chapter, the only remaining chapter of Brahma's opus, magnum opus, Brahma Samhita. And the first verse, Ishvara Parama Krishna. So Ishvara means controller or Lord. And Parama means of all the lords, whether it's Indra, whether it's the owner of an enterprise, whether it's the head of a family, anything, president, the secretary of the UN, there are many Ishvaras, but There's only one Parama Supreme, Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Satchidananda Vigraha. We understand bile, mucus, air, skin, bones, hair, and all that. But Krishna's body is not made out of the same elements. Satchidananda is eternal. It never deteriorates. It doesn't have a beginning. It was always like that. Chit, full of knowledge, not ignorance. There's no ignorance in Krishna. Ananda, full of bliss. There is no sadness. There is no depression. Krishna doesn't take Xanax. Krishna is self-satisfied and happy. And his body is made out of these elements. Anadir Adir Govindam. There is the original Adi, Anadir Adir. There is no other origin. The origin of everything is Krishna. Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of all causes, just like the rain and the clouds and all this stuff is caused by the sun. Everything is caused by Krishna. If you want, is to trace the original cause of everything, that is Krishna. So we have a very qualified person in charge of the position of God. So don't try to replace him or get someone else in 4 years. Krishna is very capable. He's the most intelligent, most powerful. The name Krishna means irresistible. There's no one. I'm sorry, I'm getting some noise here. I don't understand what the noise is coming from. It's from it. My apologies. Okay. So Krishna is totally on the ball. He's totally in charge. He knows what's best for everyone. He does the best for everybody. And this is the way things have been since time immemorial, and they will be like that eternally. So it is ludicrous to think that we can achieve any kind of success, even at trying to control things. Just like we see managers trying to control others. We see couples where one is trying to dominate the other, families, countries trying to attack and control others. All these tendencies are perverted reflections of Krishna's power, that we want to take Krishna's position in the material world and try to, because we misunderstand. We think that control and power and wealth and all these qualities that Krishna possesses are the source of pleasure. But in our case, because we are not naturally the supreme controller, supreme enjoyer, supreme friend, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, we are servants. And the more remove, the more the pleasure, which is inconceivable to our tiny little chickpea-sized brain that has been struggling with material nature since time immemorial, trying to lord it over. We have to understand and apply this principle that we are servants. We will always be servants, whether we want to understand it or not. We will always be, we were meant to serve, we expanded as servants, and we will continue to suffer until we understand that serving is where pleasure is. Because service, when it's done out of love, there is no higher pleasure than that. Okay. I think I spoke enough. I'm going to leave some time for devotees to comment or ask questions or present contentions or disagreements. Please feel free.
Yes, I'll say a few words if no one has any. Excuse me. Spoke of lording over material nature or whatever the situation may be. Sometimes it may be our service to take control of a situation. How does that work?
Well, if it is in the spirit of service and trying to help others, there is no harm, there is no karma, there is no consequences which are dreadful, such as trying to lord it over. Yes, of course, the mother has control over the children. Doesn't mean she should abuse them and, bend them to her own will. But I've seen, for example, in a managerial position, which is a very common thing, because there is a need to divide the society into hierarchies. So someone is smarter or more skillful at doing certain things. So when it comes to organizing or controlling or dispersing, whatever it is, the task, some people are better than others. And of this, in this category, I have seen, because I've lived long enough, even in the movement, to see really terrible managers, terrible, and good managers, excellent managers. There was, and I mentioned this before, I believe, there's a devotee from Germany, Vishwadev, who now has been working for Govinda's Natur, their health food business for many years, and they only hire devotees, and they're very successful. I think their budget is, they make gross 20 million euros a year selling prasadam of all sorts. So he was the temple president in Heidelberg. Incredibly qualified man, wonderful person. And he somehow or other managed to make everybody happy, just everybody happy. He will actually be a fantastic listener, and he will actually look into the nature of each individual, try to engage them properly. He got things done, got the rent paid, got the, first class prasadam and book distribution and harinam and the whole thing, and a strict temple that at the time Bhakti Vaibhava Swami, Krishna Kshetra Swami, and Sachinanda Swami, none of them sannyasis at the time, were actually living in this small center in Heidelberg. And this was such a beautiful person, beautiful manager. So he understood from the get-go that I am just doing my bid on Krishna's behalf. So I think that's a key, Taraka Prabhu, and you probably understand that quite well, that if we think we are the center, we got it wrong. We got it really the wrong picture. Whereas he understood, this is Krishna's center. These are not my subjects. I am not the king. I am just in this position to help the mission and to help everybody. Just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote letters, and I've seen it. I've seen the letters, not the originals, but the compiled in a book, where he says more than once, I am so unfortunate. I have such an unfortunate task to be a guru, where I have to instruct other people. He actually dreaded doing that. He said, I'm doing it because it is my service. And therefore, sometimes I have to speak harshly just to basically shake it. It's like if a car stops with a, not an automatic gear car, and you need people to push it in order to get it started. Sometimes they stall, and all they need is to get an impulse. So you can be soft and nice and gentle and, just be delicate. You have to just get a bunch of big men and push the car as fast as you can, and then you can start the car. So the position of a manager or a guru or a parent or a teacher is sometimes to break through this illusion and push people to get them started in spiritual life. I always picture myself if I what would be my service. For example, if I ended up in India, in Vrindavan, which I have really no desire to live in Vrindavan. I already live in a holy dham, and I'm perfectly satisfied here. What would I do? And my role will be to find Westerners that come for self-realization and get them started, give them some guidance. I see myself as the spiritual AAA man, comes with a gallon of gas and jumper cables and gets you started. And then, go on your way. I'll hand you over to someone else who can hold your hand through the spiritual journey. But I'm not going to be that nurturing person. I can only get you started on your journey. So one has to actually has to be introspective and see, what am I capable of? Even if I have this tendency to control material nature, or try to control other people, am I really able to help them or someone else can do a better job? So we should find our niche in Krishna consciousness and see what we can do best and try to apply ourselves to the best of our knowledge and to the extent that we can physically and mentally can do. And hope for the best, because that's all we can do. That was a lengthy answer to your kind question, Prabhu, that you know the answer beforehand, and somehow or other allow me to say something. If you'd like to counter that, you're welcome to.
No, it was a good answer. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more comments, questions, or contentions, I guess we'll go on with our.
I have a question.
Jai Prabhu.
First, I want to say thank you for the class and your insight as always, and also for your wonderful cure time last night and the little talk you gave beforehand. Very nice, and the guests seemed very enthusiastic. This question is a little kind of piggybacking off Tarkus. How can we try to make something happen or do things using, our intelligence, using our resources, others' resources, but at the same time not be attached and leaving the results to Krishna, you know, as the cause of all causes. Even if things don't work out as we plan, and accepting Krishna's plan. I know it's easier said than done, but how do we do that? Because we're investing time and energy in something or a project or something. And then when it doesn't turn out the way we want, sometimes it's hard to deal with that. So how can we, accept Krishna's plan in those type of situations, but at the same time, we're giving our full effort to so-called control or make something happen for Krishna?
We should always remember that we are employees of Krishna. We are not Krishna. So first of all, I mean, if you work for someone who owns a Levi's store selling jeans, and you don't work on commission, you work on salary, and whether you sell 2 pairs of jeans or 200 pairs of jeans, it's the same to you. If you want to be a good employee, just behave yourself properly and take care of the customers nicely and do your job. Whether the result is not up to you, as how many people will buy the jeans and they give the money to the store, not to you. So your effort, you can only do your best. So Krishna, we work for Krishna. We have no right to the result of our actions. So if we think, oh, I've done this, I'm wonderful, and we just pat ourselves in the back and think wonderfully of us, we miss an opportunity to have a wonderful exchange with Krishna, instead of saying, thank you, Krishna, for allowing me to participate in your movement, in your lila, and be an integral part or a minuscule part, whatever it may be. Because our head, unfortunately, is full of air and is inflatable, can get bigger. So you just pump yourself full of air thinking I'm the doer, which is not the truth. Krishna is the doer. So again, we work for Krishna, we do whatever Krishna wants. And because he's smarter, better, and knows what's good for us, he will actually try to give us the best deal, instead of ourselves trying to make our own plans. Oh yeah, because there's obviously 2 things to do here. One is you do the service that you want to do for Krishna, and 2, you do the service that Krishna wants you to do for him. They're usually extremely different. And we are very stubborn and ill accustomed. So we've been doing, now that we are entering spiritual life, because we are in the neophyte stages, most of us, we are just testing. We are trying to see, okay, if I do this for Krishna, then I can get this, I can get that. And I was reading yesterday from a Mana Shiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami, that material, this adoration, this distinction, worship, this that to be noted, for people to notice you, is actually like associated with a low-class prostitute that eats dog meat. That is what material notoriety amounts to. And this is what we are searching desperately for: the association of an old prostitute that eats dog meat. This is actually quite discouraging, but we are in illusion. We think, oh, this is delectable. Her association is very much wanted by us, because people will notice me and they will think I'm nice. Even if you want people to think that you are such a nice devotee, if you don't do it for the goodness of others, if you do it just for the purpose of aggrandizement, this is like carrying a corpse with you. This is a horrible thing. but we are addicted. We have to enter. We have entered Krishna consciousness, which is like the materialistic anonymous, like alcoholic anonymous and sexaholic anonymous and narcotic anonymous. This is the materially impaired anonymous, and we are trying to go through the steps in order to get rid of this. So it takes a long time. It's a gradual process, and it takes a long time to get rid of all these anarthas. And some of the anarthas are more subtle than others, just like thinking that one is the cause of things. Sarva karana karanam, Krishna is the cause of all causes. If one can just take it a step further and realize, I'm not the cause of anything. Krishna is the one who is causing everything, and I am able, by Krishna's mercy, to participate. Like, what have we done? This is Krishna's movement. He came as Lord Chaitanya and started the Sankirtan movement, and we are part of it now. Look at the world. Billions of people have no clue. They're going to hell in a handbasket. They have no idea who Lord Chaitanya or Krishna is. They're just imagining things. And we are able to participate in Krishna's movement, Krishna's personal movement, guided by the Senapati Bhakta, Srila Prabhupada. What a privilege. And now that we have been allowed this privilege, you're going to mess it up. It's like being allowed the membership in a very exclusive club and going in and messing up the place and hitting people and throwing things around. You're going to be kicked out. So we have to actually try to understand this is a very rare privilege, and we can't mess it up, even by subtle ways, like thinking, I have done this and I should be recognized. That is not acceptable. In order to make advancement, there is no other way. Chanting the holy name, and to chant the holy name, one has to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. Look at the trees in Gitanagari or anywhere. They go through transformation. The leaves fall, people carve initials on them. Nitai Chand cuts them all here on the farm. They go through cold and heat, and people take the fruits and the leaves, and it's just animals pee on them. I mean, woodpeckers make holes. They're tolerant. You don't hear the screaming of trees. It may be a very poetic imagery, but the trees are tolerating, and the grass is humble. You can spit on it and step on it and cut it and dig it and do whatever you want. And it's humble, doesn't complain. This is and it is said that Amaninamanadena, by giving respect and not expecting respect, that's how you can achieve that state of mind, being humble and tolerant. And without sense of false prestige, what we were talking about, thinking it is me, not Krishna, but me. I'm somehow or other the originator and the cause of things when they will go well, and you blame someone else when things don't go the way you want. So in that state of mind, if you give up prestige and give respect without expecting respect, and you remain equally humble, regardless, because we tend to jump in the bandwagon. If things go well, we think it's because of us, and things go bad because someone else. And we become elated when things are nice and depressed when things are not good. We remain balanced, like Krishna recommends. As a yogi, doesn't eat too much, too little, doesn't sleep too much, doesn't have enough recreation. It's just a normal person, a moderate person. If you can remain balanced in spite of vicissitudes that may change your destiny and your status quo, then in that state of mind, you can chant the holy name constantly. And that's when we are going to make advancement. Before that, there's a little here and there, but actually true advancement comes when one actually chants the holy names in a humble state of mind and purely, without material desires, without selfish desires. So it's a big task, Prabhu. And please bless me to achieve just a drop of that mind set. Okay, it's 7:59. Thank you for your questions. And thank you very much for attending Bhagavatam class.
Thank you for your answer. And again, thank you for invoking Krishna's presence last night in the kirtan.
I was just trying to become prominent, Prabhu, and just showing off. There's no love in my heart. Thank you for seeing what is not there. Jai. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Granta Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Shishi Rar Damodar Ki Jai. Hari Hari Bo. Jaya Nitai Gora Sundar Nitai Gora Sundar Gora Hari. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Shiva Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Namo Krishna Jaya Prabhupada,
Krishna Prasad,
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Vasari Namaste Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadhu Andamayaki Savada Jahara Shari Ramai Eva Priya Eva Krishna Prabhupada
Yeah, different color sheet. Yeah, different sheet. Yeah, Padre no sharan. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Guru Guru
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shiva Sri Gaura
Flowers, we righteous, the such things bring reasons. But assumption of our leader and the fellows of the trust is instruments that have made without things and troubles on the good. The another book was showing that it needs to come to the child and beauty, come to the church of the God. Now, Archbishop does the grand division to take the neighborhood and the sheer rate of the last. Shira Krishna Krishna it's down he loud he man he worked loud he communication that's the duty that I reach about the or shaka she diverse in my big it's like tools the very nice and give them the guy so oh criticism with the those you see there's a university class in you service. Hasn't those questions for those non it's like that and eyes is not the cheese and eating. Yes, I know. Very straight. Actually, lots of beauty first. Lots of speakers to us. Your bank instead of all of the reports. Each other, we got it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, devotees.